Then President Jacob Gedleyihlekisa Zuma ascended the stage to address the delegates gathered, thanked them for the process and thanked them for participating in the process. And then he made a plea for unity of the ANC. Let's take a look at what he said.
It is clear that once the ANC has spoken, we've got to look at what we say, how do we treat one another. We don't want a situation that after the elections, now it is just the officials, it's going to be the additional members. That after all of that, comrades who are part of us, who are exercising their democratic right, must feel as if they're outside of this decision. No one must feel so. And therefore, it is the manner in which we interact, we conduct ourselves. We begin here to address one of the fundamental principles of the ANC, the unity of the African National Congress. I'm saying this because from now we must realize the conference, the national conference has spoken, and all of us are part of that decision. I don't think we should continue to say some things, and which I don't want to say, that will make another comrade not feel comfortable. If you are electing a leadership that must lead this organization, it must lead a united organization, not a divided organization. If we did so, you will be representing the comrades who are not here, from the branches, from the leagues, and therefore let us handle one another as comrades. That is a message I wanted to give to all of you. Somlandela, somlandela uthuli, somlandela yonke indawo, somlandela. Somlandela uthuli lapho iyakhona somlandela.
Well, that's President Jacob Gedleyihlekisa Zuma's address yesterday, speaking about unity, treating comrades with respect and dignity, and making them feel as part of a united body, which is the ANC. Lebohang Pheko is a political analyst. She joins us at this time just to talk about President Zuma's motion at that time, that particular moment. Was that the beginning of a process of reconciliation?
I suppose, there has been a lot of tension and there's been a level of fractiousness within this conference, and that's really the sum total of the kind of power relationships and the internal contestations and combustions that we've observed in the ANC over the last year or two, and certainly the era post-Polokwane has been marked by quite a lot of dogged infighting. And it's wonderful to hear these sorts of pronouncements, and it's excellent to hear a sense in which there's a gesture of goodwill. But one would want to see what the action plan is, and then how this translates into really the kind of cadreship, developing the cadreship that isn't going to be here burning effigies and singing some very nasty songs. Even at the gate, we've been observing and hearing what looked like, for example, yesterday when we were leaving, a coffin bearing a burnt, smouldering T-shirt of Julius Malema, and people singing nasty songs and basically presiding over his figurative funeral. And that's really hateful behavior, notwithstanding whatever emotions he has evoked. So I think that in terms of...
Thank you. Is that an indication that the scars still run very deep?
It's going to take a lot more than a speech to heal those scars. We've been talking about healing the whole week. We've been talking about unity, but we haven't talked about how this is going to happen. It's been a very, very bloody contestation. It's been, very, very bruising. And I mean, we've seen the slate of casualties the last few days here. And over the last few months as well, and the last year or two, the first casualty probably would have been, of this dispensation, would of course be President Mbeki and the people within. Not everybody crossed to cope, for example, but there's still people within who probably harbor a level of resentment and anger. There are people who might be feeling as though
Still a bit of an undemocratic sort of position, because in democracy there will be winners, there will be losers. Is there not then a responsibility on both sides? President Zuma says, let's reach out to our cadres and let's work together, let's find a way. Is there not a responsibility on either side to say, we battled this thing and regrettably we didn't win. We are not the ones who are victorious and or triumphant. However, it's time now to regroup. It's time now to support the leadership in office, and let's move on. Let's take this to the next level.
I think that we should also construct our notion of who's victorious and who is vanquished a bit more carefully. The notion that there's this whole slating procedure gives rise to a sense of winners or losers, but ultimately the winner or the loser is the African National Congress, and by extension the South African people, the people who were not in Mangaung, even the people who may not have a particular vested interest, who may be passive armchair politicians, people who are going about their business. Ultimately, they are the winners and the losers. And the notion of cohesion, internal cohesion, is not one that speaks to the narrative of vanquished and victorious. That in and of itself is inherently divisive. One must really be thinking around corralling people internally and externally around a shared vision, a shared platform of respect, of tolerance.
The journey begins. Again, the journey is now beginning.
How does it begin?
Again, now the journey is beginning. There was a campaigning process. It ended. There were nominations. There were elections. We accept that the elections were done freely and fairly. We don't argue about that. Now, some have won. Some have lost. Now, the next level is what? The ones who have won and who have lost have got to find a way to work together.
Yes, but over the past, since Polokwane Vuyo, we have failed to see this level of cohesion taking root. We need to move around. Some people must work together. There must be unity. Pronouncing it doesn't make it happen. I think that would be interesting to have an action plan, to have decisive proclamations and statements that say that an action taken against, the sort of intolerance, the kind of indiscipline that has become a culture, become embedded in the DNA of the ANC over the past few years. I mean, the action that was taken against the ANC Youth League, for example, and particular personalities within that was very slow. I mean, people had fake American accents, people were silly white girls. I mean, there was just a culture of such disrespect that was allowed to take root before there was decisive action taken. And when the blow finally came, it was extreme. It seemed as if it was a harsh thing, and yet it was an aggregated response to so many actions.
We'll talk some more about this. What we also want to do? We want to reflect on resolutions of Polokwane and how they have played themselves out over the last 5 years. So if you please stay with us, and we sought to get you a chair, so we do hope that you are happy with that. Lebohang Pheko is a political analyst. She stays with us. You may want to